Picture this. It's the year 1654, and you are completely trapped on an island. You're in colonial Virginia, specifically Gwynn's Island, and your entire community is just totally in the grip of this mysterious, deadly outbreak. I mean, people are falling ill left and right, the water supplies might be contaminated, and as you can probably imagine, sheer absolute panic is setting in. It's this terrifying, incredibly claustrophobic scenario, right? And well, it perfectly sets the stage for an absolutely gripping narrative drawn directly from Carol M Mottershead's historical fiction, Memories of. Today in this explainer, we're going to be diving into a story of love, of just pure desperation, and the literal, impossible lengths one man will go to when all hope seems completely lost. Just listen to the sheer, raw emotion in this quote. "Dear Lord, I know you don't know me. Let my Anne live." You can just hear it, can't you? This is a makeshift, totally heartbroken prayer from our protagonist, John Punch. Now, John is a man who has never actively believed or prayed before in his life, but he is pushed to the absolute brink here. His beloved wife, Anne, is dying from this mysterious plague, and he's about to embark on an impossible, completely desperate ride out into the wilderness to try and save her. So let's get right into it with Section 1, A Race Against Time, The Crisis of 1654. Okay, so we're inside this suffocating plantation sick room, and Anne is fading. I mean, incredibly fast. She can't keep any food down. She's drifting in and out of consciousness. It's bad. The local doctor has essentially thrown his hands up, done all he can do, and told them to prepare for the worst. John's only glimmer of hope is a rumor, just whispers really, of a legendary medicine woman living with a Native American tribe way far to the north. So boom, the clock starts ticking. Virginia, 1654. A mysterious plague, a dying wife, and one man's impossible ride to find a miracle. Every single second counts here. John actually bypasses the absolute fastest horse in Master Hugh's stable, and instead, he saddles up a sturdy Narragansett pacer named Major. He knows, for this kind of rugged terrain, he needs endurance over sheer speed. Leaving his dying wife's side, probably the hardest thing he's ever had to do, but he rides straight out into the unknown anyway.
You've got to look at the sheer physical toll this journey demands. Day 1, John just pushes Major to the absolute limit, departing Gwynn's Island and riding until the terrain literally forces them to set up camp. Day 2, he's navigating deep into native territory just to reach the Powhatan camp. Day 3, the treacherous return journey begins, and it is just fraught with immediate dangers as fatigue really starts to set in. And finally, Day 4, the agonizing final push to the Piankatank River. I want you to think about the most exhausted you have ever been in your entire life. Got it? Now imagine having to ride a horse through the brutal, untamed wilderness for 4 days straight, knowing that someone you love's life hangs in the balance. Nature, physical exhaustion, time itself, it's all working against him. To survive all that, he really relies on his memories, which brings us to Section 2, Echoes of the Past, Bonds Forged in Hardship. This is where we really see exactly why John is willing to risk everything. On one hand, you have John and Anne's love story. It's pure, but it's completely forbidden. John is a black indentured servant, and Anne is a devout Catholic woman who had to wrestle so deeply with her own faith to choose love over what society expected of her. He literally scooped her up in his arms when she collapsed from sunstroke years ago, and they've just been entirely devoted ever since. But then, on the other hand, you have the plantation owners, Master Hugh and Elizabeth, and wow, they are harboring secrets worthy of a 17th century soap opera, I'm telling you. Hugh is this wealthy burgess, and Elizabeth was considered an aged spinster, but she's carrying this massive secret from a passionate single night they shared 20 long years prior. Both of these couples totally defy the rigid, uncompromising rules of 17th century society to be together, and it's those deep bonds that are exactly what fueled John's desperate ride.
All right. Let's move on to Section 3, The Miracle Medicine Woman, Deep in Powhatan Territory. So, John manages to survive that first night, and he actually arrives at the Indian camp. Now keep in mind, peace treaties between the colonists and the natives in 1654, they were tentative at best. It is incredibly dangerous just to be there. John has to very carefully navigate these strict tribal protocols, standing before formidable warriors, eventually smoking a ceremonial pipe with Chief Nectawani, all just to be granted an audience. And the person he finally meets? Totally fascinating. Her name is Perenelle. The locals describe her as being pale as the moon, and get this, she speaks with a French accent, despite living completely immersed in Powhatan culture. But here's the real kicker, she apparently possesses clairvoyant abilities.
Before John can even fully explain his whole desperate mission, Perenelle tells him she has been expecting him. She inexplicably already knew his name and exactly why he was coming. Wild, right? And it all comes down to this, a tiny, fragile vial containing the ultimate MacGuffin. Perenelle hands John this medicine, but she gives him incredibly strict instructions. Step 1, mix just a few drops in water. Step 2, administer it every single time Anne drinks. Step 3, repeat that 3 to 4 times a day. This tiny little fragile object right in the palm of his hand suddenly holds the entire weight of Anne's existence. But before he heads out, Perenelle offers this really chilling warning. She says, beware of crossing what looks like shallow water, especially in the dark, as it could rise very quickly. Now, we've all received cryptic warnings that kind of send a chill down our spine, but can you imagine getting one right before a desperate solo ride into the pitch-black wilderness? It's just this ominous, heavy piece of advice that hangs right over John as he mounts Major to race back south. Because getting the potion was really only half the battle. This brings us to Section 4. Dangers on the trail, the treacherous return. Rapid fire, John faces a terrifying gauntlet. Literally right at his campsite, as he's drifting off to sleep, he gets stalked in the dark by a menacing, rattling, two-headed snake. He barely manages to shoot it with his shotgun. Then, the very next day, he's navigating these freezing, incredibly unpredictable tidal river crossings, constantly fearing that warning Perenelle gave him. And finally, sheer exhaustion just forces him to take shelter in this abandoned barn right on the edge of a town called Topahanake. But he's awakened by a violent, super-sudden Indian raid on the town. He literally has to watch the town burn through the slats of the barn walls, completely helpless, knowing he can't step in to help because he has to get that potion to Anne. It is sheer, unadulterated willpower keeping this guy moving. Meanwhile, let's jump back to Section 5, Secrets of Gwyn's Island, a Vigil of Regret. So while John is literally out there fighting for his life in the wilderness, back in that claustrophobic sick room on the plantation, Master Hugh and Elizabeth are helplessly watching Anne slip away. Hugh is dealing with his own trauma. He's remembering losing his first wife. And the suffocating proximity to death in that room is just tearing Elizabeth apart. Because as they watch Anne fade, Elizabeth is carrying this absolute bombshell of a secret. Her hidden truth? She actually has a long-lost son named Jack. And Jack is Hugh's secret, totally unacknowledged child from that one scandalous night they spent together 20 years ago. Elizabeth raised him alone, she faced the societal ruin, but a terrible argument years later caused Jack to run away in disgust. He even changed his name to hide his past. Now, as Anne lies dying, Elizabeth is just consumed by this agonizing internal struggle. She is terrified to tell Hugh the truth, but she's completely weighed down by the regret of keeping her husband in the dark about his own flesh and blood. Think about the crushing weight of family secrets, especially when time feels like it is completely running out. And it all converges in Section 6, Fates Intersecting at Dawn, the final push. It's like a split screen in a movie here. At the plantation, Master Hugh's estranged son, Reverend John, has arrived. Now he and his father have a terrible, super fractured relationship, but he's there anyway, setting up the chalice and the holy water to deliver Catholic last rites to Anne. She's taking what seriously looks like her final breaths. Meanwhile, miles away at the river, John Punch is dead on his feet. I mean, totally running on empty. He's facing his final water crossing, exhausted to his absolute core, but he's gripping that vial that could save her. Salvation and death are literally racing neck and neck. And then a massive, mind-bending twist of fate happens. In the dead of night, right before that brutal final river crossing, John Punch encounters a traveling merchant family on a wagon. The merchant is super generous, invites John to share a fire, have a beer, and get some desperately needed rest before they both brave the crossing at dawn. The merchant introduces himself as Jack. He's traveling with his wife Jane and their little baby Lilibeth. But here's what John Punch doesn't know, what nobody realizes in that quiet little moment by the fire. This helpful merchant, Jack, he is none other than John Gwyn Fielding. He is Elizabeth's estranged son, the very son that she is weeping over back at the plantation. I know, mind blown, right? It's just this stunning intersection of destinies right at the finish line. Which of course leaves us with one agonizing final question. Will John and the potion arrive before the final Amen? Will this impossible, grueling race against time end in a miraculous reunion? Or is it going to be a heartbreaking tragedy? Honestly, to find out who wins this race, you're going to have to dive directly into the source material of Memories of for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I will see you in the next explainer.